Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If you turned off your meta ads tonight, right now at this very moment, what would happen to your business tomorrow morning? Take a second. Really think about it. For most business owners I talk to, the honest answer is nothing good. The leads would stop. The phone would go quiet. The pipeline would dry up almost instantly. And here's the thing, that's not a cash flow problem. That's not a marketing problem. That's a structural problem, a foundational crack that most entrepreneurs never even see until it's too late. Because if your growth relies 100% on paid ads, you don't actually own a business. What you have is a very expensive subscription to Mark Zuckerberg's lifestyle. You are renting your audience, you are renting your reach, you are renting your revenue. And just like any rental agreement, the moment you stop paying, you're out. No equity, no residual, no asset, just gone. Think about what that really means. Every dollar you've ever spent on ads, every campaign, every creative test, every A-B split, every retargeting pixel, none of it built anything that belongs to you. You were building a house on land you don't own. And the landlord, he raises the rent every single year, and he can change the rules whenever he wants. He can throttle your reach, he can ban your account, he can shift the algorithm overnight, and you have zero say in any of it. I've spoken to founders who were doing 7 figures in revenue, completely dependent on Meta. One policy change, one account flag, one algorithm update, and their entire business was on life support within 30 days. Not because they were bad marketers, not because their product was weak, but because they had built everything on a foundation they didn't control. This video is about how to stop renting and start owning. It's about understanding the economics of attention, the true cost of paid acquisition, and most importantly, how to engineer your business so that growth compounds instead of evaporates. But first, you need to understand exactly how deep this trap goes, because until you see the full picture, you'll keep making the same expensive mistake. Let's talk about why your ROI is shrinking and why it will keep shrinking no matter how good your creative gets, no matter how well you optimize your targeting, no matter how many marketing gurus you hire. The reason is simple. Ads are a linear system. You pay for one click, you get one chance. There is no compounding, there is no residual value. The moment the campaign ends, the value ends with it. You're not building an asset, you're buying a moment. And moments don't compound. Think about it like this. Imagine you're filling a bathtub with the tap running. That's your ad spend, water flowing in. Now imagine there's no plug in the drain. The moment you turn off the tap, the tub empties. That's your business on paid ads. You're not accumulating anything. You're just maintaining a water level that requires constant increasing input to sustain. And here's where it gets worse. The cost of that water goes up every year. In 2019, the average cost per 1,000 impressions on Meta was around $5. By 2023, it had more than doubled. By the time you're watching this, it's likely even higher. Why? Because more advertisers are competing for the same finite pool of attention. Supply stays roughly the same. Demand explodes, you do the math, so you're on a treadmill. And every year, the treadmill gets faster. You have to spend more just to get the same number of leads. You have to spend even more to grow. And the worst part? Your competitors are on the same treadmill. So even as you spend more, your relative advantage stays the same. You're all running faster just to stay in place. This is what I call the ad rent trap. And the insidious thing about it is that it feels like growth when you're in it. Revenue goes up when spend goes up. So you keep spending, you hire a media buyer, you scale the budget, you test more creatives, and the numbers look okay until you zoom out and realize your cost per acquisition has quietly doubled over 3 years, your margins have compressed, and you are now completely structurally dependent on a platform that does not care whether your business survives. You aren't scaling, you're just spending more to stay in the same place. And that distinction, that single realization, is the beginning of everything changing. Now I want you to imagine something different. I want you to close your eyes for a second, or don't because you're watching a video. But just picture this. You wake up in the morning, you open your laptop, you pull up your CRM dashboard, and there are new leads. Not because you ran a campaign last night, not because you boosted a post, not because you paid for a single click, just leads. Organic, warm, pre-qualified leads that arrived while you were sleeping. And then you look at the acquisition cost. $0. Not low cost, not cost efficient. Zero. Literally nothing. Now, your first instinct might be to think, okay, so I went viral. But that's not what happened. Going viral is a lottery ticket. It's unpredictable, unrepeatable, and mostly outside your control. What I'm describing is something completely different. What I'm describing is a business that is engineered, deliberately, systematically, to multiply itself. This is the identity shift that separates businesses that scale from businesses that just survive. It's the difference between being a media buyer and being a growth architect. A media buyer optimizes campaigns. A growth architect designs systems. And systems, unlike campaigns, compound. When your business is engineered correctly, every customer you acquire doesn't just generate revenue, they generate more customers. Every piece of content you create doesn't just get seen once, it keeps working. Every relationship you build doesn't just close one deal, it opens 10 more. The inputs stay the same, the outputs multiply. And here's what that feels like from the inside. You stop waking up anxious about your ad spend. You stop refreshing your ROAS dashboard every hour. You stop feeling like you're one bad month away from having to cut everything. Instead, you feel something that most entrepreneurs haven't felt in years, maybe ever. You feel stable. You feel like your growth is yours, independent of an algorithm's mood swings, independent of a platform's policy changes, independent of whatever Meta decides to do next Tuesday. That feeling isn't a fantasy. It's an engineering problem, and like all engineering problems, it has a solution. Let me tell you about a client of mine. I'm going to keep the details vague to protect their privacy, but the numbers are real. Last year, they were spending about $15,000 a month on Meta ads. Their cost per lead was around $42. They were generating roughly 350 leads a month. Decent numbers, not bad, but their close rate was around 12%. Their average deal value was about $2,000, and after ad spend, fulfillment, and overhead, their margins were thin. They were profitable, but barely, and they were exhausted. Every month felt like starting from zero. They came to me not because the ads weren't working. They came to me because they realized the ads were the only thing working, and that terrified them. So we stopped chasing cheaper clicks. We stopped trying to optimize the campaign. We stopped asking, how do we get the cost per lead down? And started asking a completely different question. How do we make each lead worth more? And the answer was the viral growth loop. Instead of treating each lead as a transaction, someone who either buys or doesn't, we started treating each lead as a potential multiplier. We built a referral mechanism directly into the onboarding process. We incentivized what I call the trust gap. The moment right after a prospect says yes, when their confidence is highest and their network is most accessible. The result? Within 90 days, every 10 paid leads they acquired was generating an additional 7 organic leads through referral. Their effective cost per lead dropped from $42 to under $25. Their total lead volume went up by 40% without increasing ad spend by a single dollar. The math finally worked in their favor, not the ad platforms, theirs. And here's the thing, that this wasn't magic. It wasn't a hack. It wasn't a loophole that Meta would eventually close. It was a structural change to how their business was designed. And structural changes compound. They don't evaporate when you turn off the tap. I want to zoom out for a moment and talk about the bigger picture, because the ad rent trap isn't just a business problem, it's an economic phenomenon, and understanding the economics of it will change how you think about every marketing decision you make from this point forward. Here's the fundamental dynamic at play. We live in what I call the algorithm economy. Attention is the scarcest resource on the planet, not oil, not talent, not capital, attention. And the platforms, Meta, Google, TikTok, YouTube, they have built the most sophisticated attention capture machines in human history. Billions of dollars of engineering, psychology, and data science, all pointed at one goal: keeping eyeballs on screen as long as possible. Now, as a business owner, you have two choices in this economy. You can rent attention from the platforms, or you can own attention directly. Renting is fast. It's scalable in the short term. You can turn it on tomorrow. But it's expensive, it's fragile, and it gets more expensive every year. Owning is slower. It requires investment in relationships, content, community, and systems. But once you own attention, no one can take it from you. No algorithm update can erase it. No policy change can shut it down. And here's the economic reality that most marketers refuse to acknowledge. The cost of renting attention is on a one-way trajectory. Up, always up, because the supply of human attention is biologically fixed. There are only so many hours in a day, while the demand for that attention from advertisers grows every single year. Basic supply and demand. The price will keep rising. Meanwhile, the cost of owning attention through referral systems, through community, through genuine relationships, that cost stays relatively flat, or it actually decreases over time as your network compounds. So the gap between renting and owning gets wider every year. The businesses that figure this out early will have an enormous structural advantage over those that don't. The question isn't whether to stop running ads. Ads can still be part of your strategy. The question is, are ads the foundation of your growth, or are they the accelerant? Because accelerants are powerful, but you don't build a house out of gasoline. So let's get into the actual mechanics. What is a viral growth loop, and how do you build one? A viral growth loop is a system where each new customer you acquire creates the conditions for acquiring the next customer without additional ad spend. It's the business equivalent of compound interest. And just like compound interest, the magic isn't in any single cycle. It's in the repetition. It's in the fact that the loop keeps running. Here's the basic structure. You acquire a customer. Let's call them Customer A. Customer A has a great experience. But here's where most businesses stop. They deliver the product or service, collect the payment, and move on. The relationship ends. The value extraction is complete. And customer A goes back to their life, maybe tells a friend, maybe doesn't. A viral growth loop changes what happens next. Instead of letting that moment pass, you engineer it. You create a specific deliberate mechanism that makes it easy and incentivizing for customer A to introduce your business to people in their network, not through a generic refer a friend email that everyone ignores, through a carefully designed touchpoint that arrives at exactly the right moment with exactly the right offer framed in exactly the right way. The timing matters enormously. Research in behavioral economics consistently shows that people are most likely to advocate for a product or service in the window immediately after a positive experience, what psychologists call the peak end moment. If you ask for a referral a month later, the emotional peak has passed. If you ask at the right moment, you're riding a wave of genuine enthusiasm. The incentive structure also matters. The best referral mechanisms don't just reward the referrer, they create value for the person being referred, because a referral that feels like a favor is weak. A referral that feels like a gift is powerful. When customer A can say to their colleague, "Hey, I've got something that will genuinely help you, and here's a reason to try it right now." That's not a sales pitch, that's a trusted recommendation, and trusted recommendations convert at 3 to 5 times the rate of cold ad traffic. So the loop looks like this. Paid lead comes in, they convert, you deliver an exceptional experience. At the peak moment, you activate the referral mechanism, they introduce 2, 3, maybe 5 people from their network. Some of those people convert, and then the loop runs again. Each cycle, your organic lead volume grows. Each cycle, your effective cost per acquisition drops. Each cycle, the math gets better. For you, not for the ad platform. Now let's talk about the trust gap, because this is the piece that most businesses completely miss, and it's the piece that makes everything else work. The trust gap is the psychological distance between a prospect and a purchase decision. Every potential customer has one. It's the invisible barrier made up of doubt, risk perception, and uncertainty. Will this actually work for me? Is this company legitimate? What if I waste my money? The trust gap is why conversion rates on cold ad traffic are typically between 1 and 3%. You're asking strangers to trust you, and trust, by definition, takes time to build. Unless someone they already trust vouches for you, that's the power of a referral. A referral doesn't just bring you a lead, it brings you a lead with a pre-collapsed trust gap. When someone's colleague or friend says, "I used this, it worked, you should try it," the prospect arrives already halfway convinced. The psychological work has been done for you by someone they trust for free. Now here's how you weaponize this. Most businesses treat referrals as a passive outcome, something that happens when customers are happy enough. And yes, happy customers do refer, but happy customers who are given a specific, easy, well-timed mechanism to refer, they refer at dramatically higher rates. The difference between passive referrals and engineered referrals can be 3 to 10 times the volume. So how do you engineer it? 3 components. First, the trigger, the specific moment in the customer journey where you activate the referral ask. As I mentioned, this should be at or near the peak experience moment. For a service business, that might be right after a client achieves their first meaningful result. For a product business, it might be the moment of unboxing or first use. You need to identify your peak moment and build your trigger around it. Second, the vehicle, the actual mechanism through which the referral happens. This could be a personalized referral link, a co-branded invitation, a "give this to a colleague" offer, or even a simple structured conversation script you give your clients. The vehicle needs to be frictionless. Every extra step you add cuts your referral rate in half. Third, the incentive, and this is where most businesses get it wrong. They offer discounts. Discounts are weak. They signal that your product is worth less than you charged. Instead, offer access, offer exclusivity, offer something that makes the referrer look good in front of the person they're referring. Status is a far more powerful motivator than savings. Put these 3 components together, the right trigger, the right vehicle, the right incentive, and you have a referral engine, not a referral program, an engine, something that runs continuously, generates compounding output, and gets more efficient over time. That's the trust gap, weaponized. So let's bring this all together. Here's what we've covered today. We started with the ad rent trap, the uncomfortable truth that if your growth depends entirely on paid ads, you don't own a business, you own a subscription. And subscriptions can be cancelled, throttled, or priced out of reach at any time. We looked at why ROI keeps shrinking, because ads are a linear system in a world where attention costs are rising every year. You're on a treadmill, and the treadmill only gets faster. We talked about the algorithm economy, the macroeconomic reality that renting attention will always get more expensive, while owning attention compounds in your favor over time. We walked through the viral growth loop, the structural mechanism that turns each customer you acquire into a source of future customers without additional ad spend. And we broke down the trust gap, the psychological barrier that referrals collapse instantly, and the 3 components you need to engineer a referral engine that runs on autopilot. Now here's the honest truth. None of this is complicated, but it does require a decision to stop optimizing the treadmill and start building the staircase, a decision to invest in systems that compound instead of campaigns that evaporate, a decision to treat your business like an asset you're building, not a machine you're feeding. The businesses that make that decision today will look back in 3 years and wonder why they waited so long. The businesses that don't will still be on the treadmill, running faster, spending more, and wondering why the math never seems to work out. You now know the difference. You know what the trap looks like. You know how the loop works. You know how to collapse the trust gap. The only question left is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Most people stop at getting leads. Smart businesses multiply them. Comment Kate and I'll show you how to launch your first referral campaign with little or no budget. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.